Welcome back 2.0.
Hi, I know I feel like such a special guest.
You really are. I have ever since I interviewed you felt like you brought so much tangible knowledge and it helped me personally so much on my journey. Like looking back, it's so crazy because I was in such a desperate state of just asking a million gajillion questions about IBS and getting off birth control. I was, like, fed up with my IBS. I had gone to millions of GI doctors, and I needed a different way, and I was asking you, like, so many specific questions that were so helpful. I literally still think about your advice when I have my morning coffee and, like, I have to eat something before, and if I don't, I should add protein in, like, little things like that that were so helpful that I was like, "I need her to come back just to speak on even more."
I just remember feeling like whatever you were telling me was so relevant to what I was working with clinically with all of my clients, and it was just I feel like we were meant to, like, have that conversation because, you were exposed a little bit more to the alternative routes that gastroenterologists were not able to provide for you at that time. Hopefully, they will soon, but, yeah, it was a great conversation.
Yeah, it kick-started for me. I ended up going to Parsley Health and doing, like, the whole functional medicine situation, and in 1 year, I have felt like, truly, I never thought I would actually say, "Oh, I feel fully healed." Like, I don't think about my stomach every meal, every day, and I really don't, and it's a crazy place to be, not being extended and pregnant every day of
Right,
my life after lunch.
right?
So I wanted to just take it all a step further, so I will link that last episode in the description if anyone is mainly curious about that and they're in that place, like IBS, stomach problems, but then we also spoke about, like, getting off birth control, which I was at the time. So those 2 topics, definitely go start with that episode, but let's get into this episode. So what is functional medicine? I feel like it's such a buzzword these days and people just don't know. They're like, "I go to a GI, what's functional medicine? Is it like woo woo, spiritual? Is it like a spiritual doctor?" It's not. It's rooted in science. So I'll let you take it away on like what even is functional medicine 101.
Yeah, so functional medicine, there's conventional medicine, there's naturopathic medicine. Functional medicine is just another type or theory of medicine where it's approached with a mindset of always asking why. And instead of saying, okay, I have bowel issues or I'm chronically bloated, and giving an antibiotic or giving PPIs to decrease stomach acid because you're having acid reflux, right? Those are medications to help treat some of the symptoms that you're experiencing for IBS. Instead of doing that, asking, why do you have acid reflux? Why is your bloat so distended and so uncomfortable whenever you're eating? And approaching it with that mindset. So that usually means that some functional testing can come into play here. And there's plenty of different functional testing that I'm sure we can get into, but staying on the topic of functional medicine, really looking at the data and the lab results, and then connecting that to your symptoms and approaching it with a root cause mindset. So, if we see a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth in a breath test, then we would address it with maybe some herbals and compounds that are really easy on the body but effective at decreasing the SIBO. And so it's using ideally natural medicines, but when medications are needed, they are also coming into play. So functional medicine does not exclude medications. It's just the approach to get to medications takes longer, and ideally we don't have to get there. So the company that I work for, Kale Diagnostics, is a functional medicine clinic. We have nutritional practitioners on the team, registered dietitians, and naturopathic and soon to have medical doctors. So we have a comprehensive team, and I think that's what really makes functional medicine so unique, is that we don't just approach it from the MD standpoint. It's all across the gamut. Every patient has a nutritional practitioner and a physician, a licensed physician. So they really get this comprehensive care where, again, it's not approached just with supplements or medications, but also what are you eating? What's your lifestyle like? How are your stress levels, sleep, etc.
SIBO is such a good example to that because I actually my GI tested for SIBO, which most don't, and he essentially said that I was, like, on the cusp, and he was like, "You don't really have it, but, here's an antibiotic. And I spoke to you about the
Yeah,
antibiotic, and I was like, something just feels off about the fact that the root of my issue stems from I was put on antibiotics like for a full year in college basically because I was getting strep every month and I just needed my
yep,
tonsils out, but they kept giving me antibiotic. That's where my SIBO stemmed from. That's where it all started. So I was like, why am I treating this with antibiotic? And you had even told me like, it might work, but it's gonna come back because it's almost kind of like just suppressing the symptoms, and to your point, it's not getting to the why and the actual root cause of it, and I was hesitant to go, like the natural medicine route because it sounds
I
just
know.
woo-woo. It sounds like, "Okay, yeah, 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 but I actually want to fix this issue, so I'm gonna take the antibiotic," but I was absolutely shocked at how I'm actually healed from it because I didn't even know if I truly believed in it, but it's real medicine. It's just not an antibiotic. It's something that's actually going to like clear and reset your gut. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point. I think the research shows that antibiotic use for SIBO usually, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but usually results in reoccurrence of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So that's the conversation that we had. I said, Jen, you can totally take these antibiotics. You're going to feel better in the short term, but the long term, you're going to maybe have a SIBO reoccurrence. And if not, have really low gut bacteria so that when you do encounter pathogens or parasites or proteins that your body feels are invaders, you're not going to have the defense system to be able to fight those off. So the first line of defense in our gut is the gut microbiota, so the bacteria. So when we take an antibiotic, 90% of that bacteria usually is eradicated. So whenever we can avoid unnecessary antibiotic use, I try to encourage that and first start with the alternative natural medicine route. Well, the licensed physicians do. I do not recommend that. And then once that has been completed and a very thorough research based protocol has been gone through, if there still is symptoms and SIBO, maybe antibiotics are necessary, but that is not the first option. And for you, I think that was so important to try other options before, especially because most people with SIBO have a history of chronic antibiotic use like yours, and they have no gut bacteria. And that's where that gut bacteria gets displaced from the large intestine to the small intestine and then proliferates there. And it's a whole kind of disaster.
So what's interesting is that antibiotic, Xifaxan, actually didn't help me, and I think I even went through it twice, but
Okay.
and same with my first, like, round of my protocol with functional medicine, I still didn't feel better, and I ended up doing it
Oh,
again
yeah.
and eventually felt better, but I had this conversation with a friend who's going through the same thing, she's just starting this journey, she listens to the podcast, she's probably listening to this, and she is on her functional medicine journey right now, and for her first round of medicine, still doesn't feel better. And we had this conversation kind of about like advocating for yourself when it comes to medicine because I know I kind of like was like gaslighting myself. I'm like, well, maybe I feel a little bit better. Like I almost didn't know if I felt better or not. And this is like a PSA that if you don't know, you definitely don't feel better
Hmm.
because now I like feel 100% confident in how good I feel. But it's like your doctor's telling you that you should feel better after this dose or this protocol or whatever, but we need to understand that, like, we know our bodies best and we know how we feel, and you need to feel comfortable to keep telling your doctor and pushing when you don't feel good because specifically with functional medicine, this is why I hated the GI is because there's always more things you can try and more tests you can do, which I want you to touch on.
Yeah.
Where with the GI, it's like they do your 3 tests and that's kind of it. They just keep throwing antibiotics at you.
So totally. And I think that's a conversation that I have with my clients at Kale Diagnostics. We really focus on, hey, this is a journey and you're going to have two steps forward and one step back. So often clients will come and say, okay, I'm ready for my GI to my gastrointestinal tract to feel better. I see the results. I obviously have overgrowths. Let's address it. Let's go. And then we do, and 2 months in, they still don't feel, they feel maybe 40% better, maybe 20% better. that's completely normal. And it's like I said, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And a functional medicine journey is in it for the long haul. It's in it for the long term. You're not thinking short term symptoms and side effects, you're thinking long term. So I think having that mindset whenever you go into a functional medicine, functional healing journey of knowing I'm doing this because I want the rest of my life to feel better. I don't just want my symptoms to feel better now. And having patience and grace and don't feel guilty or any of the things, and knowing that it's just going to take time. I mean, my personal health journey took years, and it's somewhat of an ongoing process because you have to maintain that. So, like, for example, with SIBO, you have to do things in your day to day life to avoid the SIBO reoccurrence, like slowing down when you eat, maybe using some bitters, making sure you're fully chewing and digesting your food, you're not wearing too tight of pants all the time. Like, these are all things that you have to focus on even moving forward. So it's a lifestyle change. You're on a protocol for a certain amount of time, but moving forward, you're still implementing these lessons learned.
Totally. And can you just talk a little bit about the types of tests that you find at a functional medicine doctor that you might not find with another, like with a GI? Or
Yeah.
with, I mean, it's
So,
not just stomach issues, it
right.
it can be PCOS, hormones, anything.
Totally. So the foundational tests that we run at Kill Diagnostics are hair tissue mineral analysis. So a mineral test where we take a little piece of your hair and
Oh, cool.
yeah, and send that in and look at your mineral status, because minerals are always ever changing in the blood. That the blood is in a great place to test your minerals. The hair gives you an average of about 3 months of what your mineral status is. So if you have like a pretty chronic magnesium deficiency, that will show up, zinc, etc. So that's really been an amazing test for us. We can see kind of blood sugar issues, thyroid issues. It's not at all diagnosing, but it's giving us kind of trends and patterns about the patient. And then GI map. So a GI test is our second. So that's a stool test. And that is the fun one that you get to take at home
It's the
and
worst.
send into the lab. Yep. And that will show us things like H. pylori, bacterial overgrowths, parasites, um, good bacteria, bad bacteria, intestinal health markers, secretory IgA, which is an immune health marker. So really, that's like my favorite lab, because GI is my favorite. But then we have a hormone panel, a urine hormone panel, that tells us your sex hormones, your androgens, your cortisol. Cortisol is a really big thing right now. People are very nervous that their cortisol is too high, and often what I see more often is it's completely too low because it's been burnt out for years and years of chronic stress. It's been chronically elevated and then kind of burnt out. So that's another one. We do full functional thyroid panels. So a lot of our patients and clients are post birth control, and their thyroid is really sluggish post birth control. And full functional thyroid panels include all the different T4, T3, free T4, free T3, and thyroid antibodies. So Hashimoto's, if you've ever heard of that condition, is an autoimmune thyroid condition. Test for that as well. So those are our foundational labs that you'll see at a lot of different functional medicine clinics, but those are our favorites.
So, and I do wanna say I remember last time we spoke about, like, your thoughts on all the different food sensitivity tests, so
Oh
go
yeah.
listen to that if anyone's curious, but what I'm hearing and what I think is so great about functional medicine is you're getting the whole picture. You're not just going to a GI who specializes in like 4 stomach issues. You know what I mean? It's like you're getting the entire picture of someone from their hormones to their stomach to their cortisol and stress levels and everything in between. So you can really work on balancing out different areas to treat the whole picture. And I think that's why it's so great. I feel like specifically women deal with this, but like so many women are just like, "I don't feel good. I'm tired all the time," but, like, I don't it's like, who do I go to for that? You know what I mean? And, like, maybe you go to your, I don't know, primary care doctor, but it's like, I just know that I should feel better. I feel like so many women, I'm sure they come to you and say, "I don't know what specifically feels off, but, like, I'm bloated and tired all the time. I don't know why." And so I feel like that's a great reason to go to functional medicine for that. And I'm sure do you hear that, like, all the time?
All the time, like 100% of the time. So
Yeah.
our clients come to us. I usually say, like, we're their last resort. They have done the GI, the OBGYN, the primary care, the allergy doc, like they've done it all, right? So they are like at their wits' end. All their labs have come back quote unquote normal and nothing's wrong with them, but they're chronically fatigued or they're postpartum and they are feel really, really down, or they have unexplained chronic weight gain where they all of a sudden gained 30 pounds and they can't understand it. They didn't change anything in their routine and their doctor just told them to go down to 1,000 calories a day. Like these are the things that we see, and it's really, it like fires me up so much because I personally have been told like in my journey that I was just depressed or I was just need to work harder, or in that does damage to your self-esteem. It does damage to how your brain works and how you feel guilty about some things and not think that about others. So it really does, in my opinion, the clients that I have seen, they have had damage from the conversations that they have had from their some of their healthcare providers in the past. So when they come to us, they're vulnerable and they're like, I really, really need help and I need answers. And we get answers. We see these overgrowth or these imbalances or these low sex hormones that's driving their weight loss resistance or whatever it is. We find the answers and then get them on a protocol to help.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I feel like another main thing that I was feeling that I'm curious if you I feel like this is probably a symptom of like every single thing you just listed is I know I'm not the only one who felt like they were doing everything right, taking all the supplements, taking all the wellnessy things, doing all the
Yeah.
wellnessy things, working out every day, and it's like I'm not seeing results. And I recently learned that when you have a lot of inflammation in the body due to really any of the things that you just mentioned, it kind of blocks your system from being
Yeah.
able to, get results. And if you could actually speak to that in a more scientific way.
No, you're spot on, and I think that a common case that I see is like the classic woman who is eating, X amount of calories a day because she thinks that's the right thing. She's going to Orange Theory 5 times a week, and she's burning herself out at that. Then she's eating 1 or 2 meals a day. She skips breakfast. So she's on this like she's never even thought about breath work or meditation. She's never checked in with herself and said, "How are you doing? How do you feel?" Her sleep is terrible, right? So she's on this cycle of chronic stress, and the things that are doing the right things, like the quote unquote working out and the supplements and the maybe the cold showers or whatever she's trying to do, it's keeping her in this sick cycle or this inflamed cycle where her sex hormones are low, her cortisol is burnt out. And she almost needs to do the exact opposite. She needs 3 full meals a day. She needs to go on really long walks. She needs to cut down to strength training maybe once a week. She needs to do Pilates instead. She needs to sleep 9 hours a day and even skip a workout every other day and just make sure she's stretching and moving her body and getting blood flow. Like actually undoing all the things that we've been told or we're supposed to do, and then check in with ourselves, whether that's through breath work or meditation or somatic exercises. Like that's where the progress really is. I think women just kind of beat themselves down sometimes, and that is where, again, nobody's fault. This is what we're told to do, but that's where we end up in these cycles of really major burnout.
That makes a ton of sense to me, and I feel like it's actually tangible advice on how we can kind of if anyone's listening and is in that place, I know I was in that place for a long time, and I think I just needed to hear, like, in every area of your life, start doing the opposite and calm the fuck down.
Yeah. Literally do the opposite of what you think.
And I definitely experienced that with my stomach where it was like I almost started my stomach got worse when I started to try to do low FODMAP and all of these things that I again thought I was doing the right thing because I was so stressed out and anxious about everything I was eating and how it was going to make me feel that it bloated me 10 times worse.
Totally.
So it's like how
Yep.
do we get out of that cycle?
So that is where I think really the stress management, and no one wants me to say this, but the stress management and the breathwork meditation really comes into play. And I didn't want to hear this, back when I was going through my health issues as well. I was like, I'm not stressed, I'm fine. And I'm like chronically stressed and
And
I
it's like
had no
less
idea.
tangible advice too. It's like, okay, so stop being
So
stressed out. How?
right, and so that's where if I mention that to my clients, I give them really tangible things to do. So I'm like, "Okay, when you wake up, 5 minutes of breath work. That's it. You can just download a YouTube video, 5 minutes. That's all you have to do. Then the next week, when we touch base via chat, hey, let's bump it up to 10. Like really small increments of just layering these things into your routine. When then they're like, oh my God, I crave my 45-minute breathwork sessions. It sets me up for the day. I've lost weight. I feel so much better. My hair stops falling out. Like again, it's not a catch all. They're also on functional protocols, but this is like the thing that really moves the needles often I see.
So as we move into like everything else that I want to talk to you about, it makes me realize that back in the day, I used to love, like I still do, but I used to want to hear about all the supplements and all the wellness trends, but then they never worked for me, which is what we've been touching on. And now I have such a greater understanding why. And it like, I just feel
Yeah.
so relieved that I was able to get to the other side. So, okay, someone feels how we were just talking about. They go to a functional medicine doctor, they bring their stress hormones down, they are treated holistically, and now they're in the space I'm in. And
Okay.
let's get into the wellness trends and supplements and all that because I don't want people to get discouraged when we talk about these things and they're like, none of that shit works for me. I think we probably just answered a lot of people's questions who were in the space that I used to be, which is honestly really exciting. I wish that I heard what you just said. Like, I wish I heard from more people who felt like they were doing all the right things and didn't get
Right.
results because all I heard was, here's all the things that gave me a rockin' bod and like I would or made me feel great. And it just, that's all I heard. So I didn't hear
Right.
that like if you're not feeling well and you're inflamed and you're stressed, none of this shit's gonna work for you. So, I
Yeah.
think
I like how
that was
you preface that.
yeah,
Yeah.
refreshing. So, let's move into the next phase, which is hopefully we get to feeling better. I wanna stick with this, like, workout situation and, like, supplements. I
Yeah.
wanna get your professional functional medicine holistic take on a bunch of supplements and wellness trends that a lot of people are talking about right now.
Yeah.
So, starting with like muscle growth for women, I have 2 questions for you. Let's start with creatine for women. What are your thoughts? I think we're just learning more about it and it's kind of like a man's world and I've
Yeah.
been hearing it creeping in like women are starting to take this. So what are your thoughts?
So yes, I take creatine now, which I was totally afraid of for so long. So the reason a lot of us are afraid of it is because it's been marketed as a man's supplement for like bulking and muscle growth and gaining. And that's like those are not necessarily always the words that women want to describe their bodies as. So what I really have learned through the research for creatine is that it is number one, it's a huge brain fuel supplement. So if you're struggling with cognitive focus, function, that's where creatine really memory. So like I'm in school right now, so I take creatine for studying and memory and focus. That's all really really important. But also it's really truly very beneficial for muscle growth. And as women, muscle growth is one of the most beneficial and important things that we can do for longevity, for hormones, for metabolism, for weight. So for so long, again, we're, doing Pure Bar and like running 1,000 miles and not so like trying to avoid gaining any muscle, but we need that muscle, especially as we age, our bone health really decreases. So we need that muscle to help offset. So creatine's great for muscle building, great for cognitive focus. I really like it around I think it's 4 milligrams a day, and or it's grams. Of course, I can't remember now, but it's great.
4.
It's four. Just remember 4 or 5.
And are there side effects to it?
It's grams, I just remembered. It
Okay.
no side effects. I mean, you may feel if you up the dosage too high too quickly, you may feel a little slightly puffy, like water retention. But I personally did not notice that and have definitely noticed some benefits with muscle gain.
Really? Okay, I
Yeah.
think that's gonna be my next thing I kind of move into. So, working off that, amino acids, I know I've heard so the founder of Kion, do you know what that company is?
Yes, I
He
have some in
was
my pantry. Yeah.
okay, so he was on the Skinny Confidential and I edit their TikToks, and when I
Yes.
put a TikTok up from him, millions of comments saying this guy has no idea what he's talking about, and, like, there's a lot of controversy around amino acids and where you get them from, and if you should only get them from your meat or whatever. So I'm curious your thoughts on taking these amino acid supplements.
I am always a food first person. So you will hear that on my Instagram, you'll hear that on my in my programs. Like I am food first all the way. So I am like really always encouraging my clients to eat around depending on their weight and their goal weight, around 100 to 150 grams of animal protein per day, which is harder than it sounds.
Yeah,
Um yeah, it's difficult. But so sometimes taking some amino acids is helpful. Um, for that muscle protein synthesis. Now, I may not know enough about the science and the backlash that he received. Again, food first whenever possible. I think these supplements can be helpful in reaching those goals. It's not reaching your total protein goal, but it's helping with the amino acid piece. And if we're eating these foods, they have all nine essential amino acids. I think you're covered for the most part. But again, if you're trying to reach like further goals, more muscle growth, it could be a beneficial supplement. There may just be some backlash. Are we
controversy.
surprised?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Everything has.
yeah.
So on that note, that just popped into mind. Another thing I saw on social media: bone broth. People say it's a great way to get some extra protein in. Other people say it's not a full, complete protein or something like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it necessarily towards your protein goal.
Okay.
So I again, full it technically it's a whole food, I guess,
Right.
but I would rather you count towards your protein goal real whole like chewable food. And bone broth technically doesn't count towards. I think it's still a complete amino acid, but it doesn't count toward that total protein goal.
Okay, so, you could still have it obviously as, like, for separate
Yes.
health reasons and benefits, just it's not gonna necessarily hit your protein goal,
Yes, and
like,
it
count.
has a lot of benefits.
Okay,
So it has, it's really great for gut health, gut nourishment. If you have, say, you do a stool test and your intestinal health markers aren't great, I always recommend bone broth. It's just not necessarily getting you the goals, maybe for muscle growth.
okay. Colostrum, this is a big one right now. I started taking Armra, I've been doing it for 2 months. My main benefit, honestly, has been hair growth. Like,
Hmm.
I was on a hair growth journey, and within a month of taking this, it, like, shot up the thickness and everything really quick. So that's just, like, a personal anecdote, but if anyone's like, "Why the hell are we taking this thing?" It's like a new supplement. What are your thoughts on it? What is it? All that.
Yeah. Yeah, so colostrum, the specific company that I take is Armra Colostrum. I'm sure we've all like heard of them. They're
Same.
all over social media. They're great. I love the company. I love their sourcing. So it is basically the food that baby cows get within the first few months of their life. And they only consume it for like a period that the mom is producing it. So there's a lot of waste from cows that is just thrown away. But it's this like natural superfood that we can capture and put into supplement form and consume ourselves. Prebiotics, probiotics, what I really feel is the strongest kind of selling point for Armra is the stool test that I run. There's a marker in there called secretory IgA. And this marker is indicative of immune health within the microbiome and within the gut. So we have about 70 to 80% of our immune system health is within the mucosal layer of our gut. And often when I see like post birth control or antibiotic use or dysbiosis, I'm seeing really low secretory IgA. That's the word. So I'll put my clients on colostrum and we'll do GI map retests, and that secretory IgA marker will completely normalize. And
Wow.
that is like crazy. We're doing other
Wow.
things, of course, too, but like this colostrum is so powerful for they were dealing with food sensitivities, eczema, allergies, bloating, being sick every winter 4 or 5 times. Again, not at all a cure all, but did it help improve this immune health marker in their journey in functional medicine? Absolutely.
This is incredible. I feel like it's been a long time since there's been a new superfood health supplement that was introduced and really changed the game. And the founder was on the Skinny Confidential podcast. So if anyone wants like a full hour deep dive
Yeah,
into it, check that out.
that one was good.
I have more things for you, but I just checked. I put a question on Instagram and someone said berberine. She wants to know
Yeah,
about.
so berberrine's getting a lot of attention. I like it again for my GI protocols. Berberine can be an antimicrobial. So if I see a lot of overgrowths in the gut microbiome, berberine can be really effective at kind of like breaking down and kind of killing off those bacterial overgrowths. I think people have been taking it for is the trend like the metabolism thing? Like,
I'm pretty sure it's like the herbal Ozempic people are saying,
yeah,
right? Like Organic Olivia was saying that.
the
I could be wrong.
research I don't believe is there.
Okay.
So I have heard that trend. I haven't like deep
Like
done a deep
Nature's
dive.
Ozempic or whatever.
I would say if you want nature's Ozempic, eat 150 grams of protein and you will feel so
Love that.
satiated and satisfied that I think you will feel much better. But I don't necessarily think berberine, and I think berberine can do some if you don't have a need for it GI wise, it can kind of do a little damage. It can cause some GI upset.
Oh.
So I don't, a lot of my clients, if they're not like, we don't titrate it up, then maybe they get a little disruption in their GI symptoms. So I don't recommend it all the time.
Okay, because this person saying she has gut problems, IBS, SIBO. So you would
Yeah.
recommend it for her?
So for that, yes,
Okay.
I would.
Okay.
Yes. But if
Okay,
you're
cool.
not at all in that range and you're like, my feels great, like it may not be best for you.
Okay. There's more here, but I'm gonna go back to the ones I prepared and then go back to
Okay.
it. So, because on that note, what are your thoughts on Ozempic?
So first of all, everyone's journey is their own. A disclaimer, do what you feel is best for you. I think when it comes to medications, as a nutritional practitioner, I get flack for speaking on them, but if it were, myself, I would be concerned about the long-term health of my metabolism and of my muscle. So, like I said, how the
Right.
importance of muscle growth, it's the key to longevity, the key to having a healthy, happy life with sex hormones, with everything, right? So then if we take away the muscle, the I think the ratio of weight loss on Ozempic is like 2 to 3 muscle to fat. So I might be saying that ratio wrong. The point is you lose more muscle than you lose fat. That's what I'm trying to say. So that is the opposite of the goal that we want. We want to maintain or increase our muscle as we lose fat. So improve the body composition, the ratios of what our body is comprised of, and it's kind of doing the wrong thing. So I think when you have a really great healthcare provider that recommends Ozempic, make sure they're also pairing that with support on maintaining and increasing your muscle mass.
Got it. So take creatine, amino acids, all
I
protein.
think, yeah, I think again, it's a last resort kind of thing.
Yes.
So I've heard great stories about it and changing people's lives, and I'm a proponent of that. I feel like there are areas where you can try first before you jump to it.
Okay. Speaking of shocking the body, cold therapy, cold plunge, sauna, like extreme temperature
Yeah.
therapy. I'm curious your thoughts on this, and also, is that something that you really only get benefits if you're consistent with it? Is it a short-term thing? What's the deal?
Yeah, I'm a fan of all of this. I think anything to extremes, of course, is not going to be beneficial. I think a few times a week with cold therapy, I will recommend you want to do it before your workouts or a few hours after your workouts because you want that inflammatory response post workout, and cold plunging will prevent that. So I, of course, was like working out and then cold plunging, think it would help with like muscle soreness and things like
Yeah.
that. Well, it was also decreasing my muscle protein synthesis, the muscle growth piece, because it was decreasing the inflammatory response. So you want to do it right before or a few hours before or a few hours after. So avoid doing it right after.
Okay, so this would be a good thing to do, like, first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning, I wish I had a cold plunge. Actually, I'm near the beach, so I could just jump in the ocean, but that's the whole thing.
That's
Um,
aggressive.
that's aggressive. And my hair every day I couldn't wash.
Yeah.
So my fiance jumps in every day and I'm jealous, but
Wow.
so cold plunging I think is a great option. If you don't have a cold plunge, you could do cold showers in the morning. Start with 15 seconds, ramp up to like a minute. I find a cold shower harder than a cold plunge.
That's why I was just shaking my head because I'm so
Oh,
down for a cold blood plunge any day of the week. I
same.
cannot do a cold shower because you're not
Something
fully submersed. So
yeah.
you're more cold from like the part of your body that's exposed. It's like a weird,
It's
it's
not it.
harder.
It's harder. I
I
agree
don't do it. I
completely.
gave up.
I gave up completely. So my goal in the next like year or so is to have a cold plunge in the house, maybe a wedding gift from like a great,
Totally. There are
great
some like cheaper ones too that are really small where it's
yes.
like to start with.
So we got one of those like Home Depot like gardening bins and we
Yeah,
were
yeah,
doing
yeah.
that in our at our old house
Oh,
and
cool.
that was just buying bags of ice. We haven't been doing it recently. It's a whole cuz then the ice is a cost, it's a whole thing,
It's a
of
whole
course.
thing.
But that's I think it's a great option. The only concern I have is for women who are in cycling. First of all, I wouldn't do it during your period. But otherwise, if you're having fertility issues and you're struggling with maybe your PMS and hormones, I think, Chinese medicine talks about keeping the abdomen and your uterus like warm. They want you to be drinking warming drinks and saunaing and keeping that area warm. So the cold plunging may not be good if you're struggling with fertility. But speak to your doctor, speak to your healthcare provider about it.
Oh, that's a great tip. Okay. Cymbiotika products are I feel like that was like the latest trend before Armra. There oh my god, wait, that's a huge
I
bucket.
have a lot. Yep.
Oh my god. Okay, so you clearly love it. So tell us, I've tried it like once or twice in like a store, but I have
Yeah.
yet to take the plunge and actually
Yeah.
buy and invest in a whole thing. So why is Cymbiotika so great? What's liposomal technology? Tell us all that.
Yeah. So I just jumped into the trend because it's just been around like arm run symbiotic. I just was like, okay, I
I
gotta try
know.
these because people are asking me and I gotta know more. So the liposomal technology is it's a little packet and then you squirt it into your mouth and then it's absorbed orally versus going through the digestive tract. Often, I don't want to say often, but sometimes when you take supplements orally and it encounters your stomach acid, it can kind of like denature or take away from the benefits and kind of break down the supplement or the nutrient. So the liposomal technology, the whole idea behind it is that it's absorbed directly in your mouth and you reap the benefits kind of immediately. It doesn't break down. It's direct access into your bloodstream. So the ones that I take are the creatine, that because often you'll find
Oh.
creatine is in powder form on like full script or online. I always forget to take powdered supplements. Like I always forget to just like put it in my water, whatever. This, I keep it at my desk and I remember to take it. Glutathione, there are longevity mushrooms. I love like adaptogenic mushrooms, golden mine for brain health, and then their B complex. So those are the ones that I chose. Their magnesium, I think, is a really good option, and vitamin C.
Okay, amazing. I'm sold. I'm definitely gonna I need to try theirs. I would do the creatine, but my boyfriend does have a whole, like, bucket of powdered creatine here already, and I do, like, a beta-alanine mix on whatever potion he's making in the morning. I make mine without the creatine, so maybe I'll just add
Do it.
BCAAs? BCAAs. He's here, he's correcting me.
BCAs, yeah.
BCAAs. Double A's? BC double A's? Okay. That's what I'm taking. I don't really even know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So the Keon founder was talking about how it's not the complete amino acid. So it's
Okay.
really, I think it's a little more of a trend. Don't tell your boyfriend I said that.
Okay.
But I think like if you're going to do those BCAAs or the amino acids, I would rather you do the powder amino acids than just the few aminos that are in the BCAAs.
Okay, I'll add it in. I add element in, I make, like, a whole
Do it
potion
all.
every morning.
Yeah.
It really though my whole face tingles, and it helps my runs so much, like, it gives me this energy spurt. I'm like, "I don't know what this is, but it feels like I'm taking steroids, and I know I'm not, so, like, I'm just gonna keep using it."
Hey, if it works, that's good.
Exactly. Okay, more things keep popping into my head, so I'm gonna try to keep them like a little more rapid fire, I guess.
Yeah.
Thoughts on seed cycling? Because I know there's not much research to it, but I do use the Bia Wellness just because like it tastes good anyway. So why not
Yeah.
throw it into my routine?
My whole thing is I wanna recommend things to my clients that they're going to be able to do and it's realistic for them. I personally have found and my clients have reported back that, like, I forget about the seeds, I forget what week I'm
Totally.
in, I like, it's just not the easiest thing, and I don't think the research is there to show, like, this huge benefit that's like, "Okay, what's the cost benefit here?" And I don't think the benefit's there for that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really like notice a huge difference, but if anyone does want to do it, I use the Bio Wellness. They're like all the seeds are packaged for you, two
Oh,
different
nice.
packets. So the first 2 weeks you take the one package, second 2 weeks you take the other, and that's just like what I add on my yogurt, my cottage cheese, my oatmeal, and it
That's
tastes good.
easier.
Yeah.
I
So
was,
like,
like, having, like, 14 different bags. I'm like,
no, no,
"Where am I
no,
supposed to take?" I'm, like, grinding my own seeds. That's the other thing is, like, seeds can really easily oxidize, so if they're pre-ground, there may be more pro-inflammatory, so there's just a lot of, like, holes to poke in the
got it.
process. Yeah.
Okay. Cycle syncing. What are your thoughts?
Love. I think people can take it a little too far and be like, "Oh,
Yes.
I'm, a week and a half away from my period, I can't do anything." Unless you truly feel like you are down and you cannot do totally follow your body, but if you're, like, just cycle syncing even though you don't feel like you need to be cycle syncing, I think that's where it kinda goes a little awry, like, at the beginning of your cycle, if you are feeling down and you're not feeling like you have the energy, but you're at the beginning of your cycle and you are supposed to at, day 7, you're supposed to have all this energy, don't force yourself, right? So goes both ways. Be really intuitive about it. Maybe if your energy is really low as you approach your period, honor that. That's cycle syncing. Changing your workouts up to more strength training in the first half and more like Pilates and walking in the second half. Eating a little bit more in the second half, definitely not fasting. Those are some areas where I think it's great.
Yeah, I've kind of changed it to, like, cycle awareness, you
Love
know?
it.
Yeah, like, I'm not following a certain diet every week of the menstrual cycle, but it's
Right.
more so just, like, checking in with myself. If I feel emotional, "Oh, that's because it's my luteal phase, maybe I should do this differently," or whatever. It's more like just being aware of my cycle.
Aware. I
Yeah,
like that word better. Yes, totally.
I just came up with it, so
Good, I'm
Okay,
using it.
2 more things. The difference in magnesiums, you don't have to hit every single magnesium, but this is something you just posted a graphic
Yeah.
about, and I think people get so confused, like, they're told to take more magnesium, and they're like, "But there's 8 different kinds."
So there are 8 different kinds, and they're just, like, not necessary to take them all, and what I really boil it down to is if you're having, um, PMS issues or hormonal issues, magnesium glycinate with B6 is great. There's a Seeking Health version, I think it's called Magnesium Plus, and the B vitamin with the magnesium is amazing for decreasing PMS and, hormonal symptoms.
Oh, great.
If you're dealing with muscle cramping or constipation, magnesium citrate. Those are if you want some, like, brain function support, magnesium L-threonate, but those are, like, the main ones. Magnesium malate also could be good, but not to confuse further. So really focus on glycinate or malate. Those are 2 great for sleep, relaxation, recovery. Citrate for constipation and cramps.
Citrate really works. When I was, like, deep in IBS-C and I would take it every night, like, I take it as needed now, but that really works, and
Yeah.
also I love the Magnesium Moon
Yep.
Juice drink
I don't
at
know what
night.
forms are in that, do you know?
It's not citrate. I
Okay,
think it's, like, 4 other ones. I don't even
okay.
know what it is.
I like one that combines. So,
Yeah,
like, a magnesium glycinate citrate malate or magnesium glycinate malate. That's, like, my favorite with a B6.
okay. I need to find one with the B6, I don't have that.
Seeking
Okay,
Health.
one last question, I'm definitely gonna look into that. Someone wrote digestive enzymes. Is that something you would recommend everyone take? Or if
No.
someone's because I know, like, with certain probiotics, which is a whole nother episode, it's like if you're
Yeah.
really dealing with SIBO, maybe don't use a
Do
probiotic
not
when you
take.
think that's when you should. So
Yes.
Digestive
So
enzymes, when should you take them?
so ideally, of course, we see a stool test and we can see what your enzyme output is. That's my
Okay.
favorite. If like someone may be supplementing with digestive enzymes, they have plenty of enzymes. They pause the supplement before taking the stool test, so it's not just the supplement that's in the stool. It's like what your body's actually outputting. But I really like to approach it from, okay, why do you need the enzymes in the first place? Are you shoveling food in your mouth as you're writing emails? Are you extremely stressed throughout the day? So your body shuts down digestive fire and the digestive juices. So, like, first approaching it with maybe some bitters, put spraying bitters on your tongue. Herb Farm has a great brand, Organic Olivia has a great brand. And that wakes up the digestive system and says, hey, there's food coming. There's bitter flavors on my tongue. So we need to produce stomach acid. We need to produce bile and digestive enzymes. That's where I'd rather you start. And then if you get a GI map stool test and you have digestive enzymes that are low in the results, then maybe short term supplementing with some enzymes could be helpful.
Okay. So I just want to end it on this might have been overwhelming with like all of the supplements that I threw at you, but something I used to feel, especially when I was in that like I'm doing everything right and I'm not getting results era, something I felt was like that I never asked anyone, and I feel like you're the perfect person to ask. Is it possible that you're taking too many different supplements that certain things start like negating each other almost? Like you're getting
That's hard to
all
say.
you're doing colostrum, you're doing creatine, you're doing all of these 50,000 supplements a night. Like Ethan, my boyfriend and I laugh every night. We like hit the supplement drawer and
I
he's
know.
just like throwing random drops of free shit that I get in his mouth. And I'm like, is this gonna like mess with your stomach? Like, I don't know. So is it, how do you know when it's almost too much?
It's too much when you obviously aren't feeling any better or worse, and you're just like, first of all, don't spend the money on things that you don't need, right? Like
Right.
supplements are expensive. We all know that. I'm in functional nutrition and functional medicine. I obviously am a proponent of supplements. I am not a proponent of wasting your money on supplements that you don't need. So, of course, functional testing tells you what you actually do need. That's why it's, in our programs, we don't recommend 1,000 supplements. We are recommending specific individualized supplements and dosages based on their lab results. So really think, reel it back. Do you need supplements for every single ailment, or do you really want to do like, okay, I'm struggling with my sleep, let's focus on that. Okay, we've got sleep in order, now let's focus on digestion. Okay,
Yeah.
got that in order, let's focus on hormones. Like, be intentional about it. Don't shovel a bunch of supplements in your mouth at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
ideally work with someone who can advise.
Okay. I think that's really good advice. Quickly ending segment. Well, first, let me ask you, are you a reader or a podcast listener?
Both.
Okay, then we'll do both. What is a book recommendation that you have?
So I am reading The House on the Cerulean Sea right now. I'm a fiction
Fiction?
reader. I don't I'm in school, I'm reading research all day. Like, I do when I lay down, I want to read something that like escapes.
Fair.
So I am in the middle of that book. I really liked it. I read A Court of Thrones and Roses. Not a fan. Sorry for those who are, like, just didn't love it. So those were my two most recent reads. And then of course, classic answer, Skinny Confidential podcast. Like, that's, I listen to every episode. I love your podcast,
Oh, thanks.
and Huberman, of course. These are all pretty classic podcasts that Armchair Expert, love that too.
I find Huberman it's like too long and sciencey for me. I need someone to start a podcast where they do like the millennial Huberman or something.
That's a really good idea. They
I
should.
should do it.
You should
But
do
then
it.
just like
But
break
you need
down
someone
all
to
of his
interpret it.
I need to like break down all of his episodes, kind of like, do you know The Skim?
Yes, love.
Yeah, I need to be like the skim of wellness and just break it down for like the girls.
That's a good
Maybe I'll
idea.
start
You
doing
should.
that. Okay, wellness product you can't live without right now.
Oh, I've been drinking goat milk kefir every morning.
Oh,
Yeah, which is like wild, but I am really prioritizing my breakfast every morning, like really focusing on that. I'm not at all doing coffee before, like I recommend for everyone, but for so many years I was not taking my own advice. And I do like a little tiny, like a 20 gram of protein shake with milk, and then a glass of goat milk kefir, and that's 30 grams of protein because I don't really want to eat yet. And then I'll eat in like 2 hours. Like for this podcast, I was up at like 5:45. So I had the kefir and the protein, and then I'll probably eat in like an
That's actually really smart to do that because
hour.
I sometimes am, like, too nauseous to eat, and I'm like, but
Same.
I'm supposed to eat before my coffee," so that's a great way to kind of just, like it's like a beverage almost.
It's a
Yeah, I like
beverage,
that.
and that's a complete protein. Talking about complete proteins, right? We have that, and then I like equip protein powder. That's a complete protein. So we're getting that towards our protein goals, which is great.
Okay, what's a staple in your morning routine that you can't live without?
So just like coffee time with my fiance on the couch. We
Aw.
usually wake up pretty early and just I'll have my little tiny breakfast and then we'll sit and chat and I really enjoy that time. Like I think having time before you jump into work or commuting or whatever it is important. It doesn't have to always be super productive. I think that was the pressure that I put on myself, like, oh, you have to meditate or you have to walk or you have to like this is just like fun time for us to just like hang out before we get into our crazy days. So just doing something you enjoy in the morning before you get into your day.
I'm with you, and I think that's why I wake up so early now is because I refuse to rush out the door to work out because I know that
Same.
that's not good for me, kind of like what we were talking about before. So it's like I have to wake up extra early to, like, eat something, let the caffeine hit, have a
Yep.
conversation, like, it's
Same.
annoying, I wish because there's so much I wanna get done, but it's really helped me. Okay, where can the people find you? I know you're offering $250 off. I put it in the intro to your
Yeah.
program, so you could speak a little to your programs and where people can find you.
Yeah, so Kill Diagnostics is the company that I'm lead practitioner there and I run the operations there as well. And we're a team of women, like I said, licensed physicians, registered dietitians, and we're growing really rapidly. We have really awesome functional medicine programs with functional testing included. And you can find me there. You can find me at Simply Sking on Instagram. You can always DM me with any questions. But our programs are all year long and they vary in intensity and number of labs and things like that. So if you ever have any questions about it, just let me know and I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, perfect. Well, part 2, thank you so much for coming back on. I'm sure you'll be back again because I just feel like you're
Yeah,
a wealth of knowledge. So, thank you so much.
of course. Happy to be here.